Mkiniona mimi hivi, ati wale watu tunashindana na watu ni wale yani mtu ningeshingana na yeye ni Raila Odinga, lakini sasa hawa nitawamalizia asubuhi na mapema, early in the morning. Wamepotea.
Welcome back and thank you for watching the NewsGang. Now we are coming back to our own Kenyan politics. That was the president speaking today. He is campaigning for the UDA candidate in Malava. He wasn't the only one doing that today. There was quite some activity in Malava. But JB, he says something very, very interesting, that I don't think I have any strong opposition left since the passing of Raila Odinga. Ako sawa tu.
It is interesting. That's politics, because you must always posture and position yourself. And that is what William Ruto is effectively doing in Malava. But allow me to say, Jamila, that the by-elections would be the precursor to 2027. That the pace at which we're going to see politics and politicians change in 2026 will be determined by the outcome of the 27th of November by-elections, either in Magarini, Banisa, Malava, Kasipul, and all the other places, simply because it would be the first time we are seeing the test for the united opposition and how they maneuver their candidates in these polls. And again, for President William Ruto, it would be a test for his UDA or Kenya Kwanza team and the newfound arrangement with ODM in these polls. Because you remember about early this month, or maybe, I think it was on the 12th of the 13th of October, while in Siaya, the Deputy President Kithure Kindiki said, as Kenya Kwanza administration, they are going to support the ODM candidates in Ugenya and Kasipul. Obviously saying that they're in this thing as a team. You see the Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza actively leading campaigns for the UDA candidate in Malava. So this is going to be a test of these two formations. And if the united opposition tastes blood, then William Ruto has got everything to be worried about in these by-elections, simply because this will offer direction to 2027. And therefore, that is why you saw William Ruto in Baringo. Must have been either the other day or yesterday.
He was there yesterday.
And today he was in Malava actively campaigning for a UDA candidate, because the tests of these by-elections are likely to be a reflection of what is going to happen in 2027. And therefore, he is out there campaigning, and I don't think he stops until August of 2027. And we will see a number of things happening in this space. He would want to quote ODM more actively during this time and up to 2027, simply because the super cover that he had in ODM in the name of Raila Odinga is no longer there. And therefore, ODM now has got various talking heads that he'd want to come down, so that there's a direction that this is where ODM is. So he has to handle the by-elections and also handle ODM. So we are going to see an active William Ruto going forward, managing the by-elections and also trying to ensure that ODM that offers him that super cover stays in line and stays in check within the broad-based arrangement.
You raise a very good point, JB, because the president, as you said, he was in Baringo, he's in Malava, he's campaigning and also promising goodies.
Exactly.
There was, I think, a university somewhere, some other projects being mentioned there, those goodies were being promised. And you talk about ODM, and yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that there was an interesting soundbite by Kisii Governor Simbarati, who's an ODM official, when he said, well, if William Ruto wants the ODM ticket, he has to go at it with everyone else. Aende huko atafute tikiti, which means him running on an ODM ticket is a possibility. But let's listen to ODM Secretary General Sifuna speaking about ODM in the broad-based, just after a meeting of the party.
We reiterate the commitment of the party to the broad-based government until 2027, a relationship guided by the 10-point agenda entered into for the sake of peace and stability of the country.
Sam, we're going to see very interesting things very soon.
Yeah. And I know very many people, when they listened to Secretary General Edwin Sifuna make that statement, they wondered if he's the same person they saw at the funeral of Raila Odinga on the 19th of October 2025. But you recall that he has consistently said that he's the Secretary General, and when he's asked to read a statement, he's going to read the statement, whatever the content may be. And he has used some very interesting examples. I understand that during that press conference, there are journalists that wanted to raise questions after the statement, and immediately he finished, he said, no questions for today, because he knows what people are going to ask. You recall that it was the very first meeting since that funeral, and if the funeral sentiments are anything to go by, then you'll know that ODM was not a very peaceful affair on the day Raila Odinga was laid to rest. But now coming in on Monday to have that meeting in Nairobi, and thereafter releasing that statement, I see that as an attempt by the new party leader in Dr. Oburu Oginga to at least bring everyone to order, have a common voice that can stand and can sustain them for the coming few weeks. Of course, we've seen them saying that they're going on with their plans to celebrate the 20 years of ODM, holding different meetings. There has been calls. I think it's Mbarati was inviting former affiliates from Uhuru Kenyatta to Kalonzo Musyoka and William Ruto to come back to the fold of ODM party. Even him saying that come 2027 they'll have a candidate and they are ready to welcome, including William Ruto, to come and contest for the ticket with other contestants that may want, or other aspirants that may want to be president of Kenya. So I look at it as an opportunity that the ODM party has taken, knowing how deeply divided they are, to at least buy themselves time to mourn the passing of Raila Odinga, but at the same time to see the tension that was to sort of cool down, and perhaps in the coming weeks and months we'll see them making a bolder statement opposition moving forward. At the same time, you're seeing other political parties, they're strategizing. Yeah. They're coming together and deciding on where do they go. Just today we saw the Jubilee Party meeting and designating Fred Matiang'i as one of the deputy party leaders.
Maybe, Sam, we can listen to that soundbite of Jeremiah Kioni talking.
Sure.
Yeah.
We have also resolved that Dr. Matiang'i represents us at the United Opposition, and on top of that, we also received formally his application to be the presidential candidate or Jubilee presidential candidate, and the NEC approved, resolved that he now carries the flag of Jubilee Party as our presidential candidate. And even as he goes to the United Opposition, he goes there in that capacity, and also representing our party leader, or deputizing our party leader, and actually being the face of our party going forward.
Right, so that's the Secretary General. Of course, I think for him it's a dream come true. Remember, he was one of the earliest to say that Jubilee Party wants Fred Matiang'i to be its presidential candidate. So that has happened. Of course, that meeting was chaired by the former president and party leader of Jubilee, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. But so when you see this, at the same time, for the very first time, we see the Jubilee Party acknowledging the existence of the United Opposition, however loose that establishment is. Of course, when we've spoken to to the other leaders previously, they have always said that we're working on understanding each other. Kalonzo Musyoka said that they're getting to know each other so that they can come together and form a structure, a vehicle that takes them to the next level. The next big question will be, how do they now come together to form a team that can actually pick a presidential candidate, a running mate perhaps, and eventually candidates for the rest of the seats, because you have 6 elections on one day. At the same time, when you listen to the president sort of mocking them and telling them that I do not see anybody, if it's those ones, I'll be done with this election by the morning of the election. So really, I see that as an opportunity that the president is taking to sort of whet the appetite of the people, telling them that even as you see them, because he's actually not referring to them by name. He's talking about Wakabila, those people without a plan. They cannot even tell you what road they're going to construct and what they're going to do with it. So he's, as JB says, he's posturing. But then it is up to the united opposition to decide how do they approach that election, because we're two years away. You look at the president and his entourage, they are busy saying that it's not yet time for politicking. It is time for us to deliver. We have a manifesto, we have work to do, we have projects to implement and to unveil. But at the same time, he's politicking. So does the united opposition have an opportunity to unveil projects? Of course they don't. They don't have power of the purse. They don't have any ministers. They do not have any officers that they can call to ask them to implement whatever that it is. But I think it is too early for anyone to start cutting their cloth. We are yet to see so much. Of course, the reorganization of the political space will see so much. There are people who currently are singing a certain song. They will drop it as we get closer to the date of the election. But I think at the same time, we must not lose, as Kenyans, we must not lose the visibility, we must not lose the sight of what is important, because at the moment, you have 416 members of parliament. Of course, as soon as you have the by-elections that are replacing those that have passed on or those seats that have become vacant, we have 1,450 members of the county assemblies. They have work to do. 47 governors, 1 president, 1 deputy president, and you have cabinet secretaries. They have work to do. They have resources they're implementing. They have budgets they're implementing. There are questions that they must respond. There's a question of accountability, because at the moment they have the power of the past. They have the power to run the executive or different terms of government that we have in the country. So really, it is up to Kenyans, even as you watch the political game, what is your right and how do you ensure that those that are in office are kept accountable for whatever that they're implementing. So I think it's going to be an interesting few months. We're still, is it about 22 or so months to the election? So much that we haven't seen.
Yeah, because you talk about the people and what their voice is in all this. And we've mentioned here how the way the politics in Kenya is, it's the leaders, the politicians who decide for us which direction we will go. Sometimes it's not really up to us, it's not our choice. And it's not like everything in this country is going on perfectly well. We are having a lot of problems in the education sector, in the health sector, with the economy, with people's ability to just be able to earn a living. So the politicking that we're seeing now is intensifying because of the by-elections, but then it will intensify more, especially next year as we come closer to elections. Bonya, any final words before we finish?
I think 2 things. One is for ODM, like some rightfully says, they're taking some time. And I think this is the time they're trying to steady the ship. And they'll do this, and chances are after the ODM at 20 celebrations, then we might see very pertinent voices emerge from the party leadership and just trying to offer direction going forward. On the part of the president, he's out already, and I don't think he will be found in State House anytime soon, because remember, he had also promised that he would be heading to Kambani in 2 weeks, which is at the end of this week, the 2 weeks since Mashujaa are done, he moves to Kambani. So I think anybody who has appointment with him at State House, Nairobi, in the coming days, tricky sana.
How interesting politics is and life is in general. Thank you, JB. Thank you, Sam. We are about to finish. Time for the final words. I think Bonyo tuanze na wewe leo.
Mutanitupia vimoshi moshi.
Uko na ruksa.
Niko na uhuru wa kutoa suluhu.
Wow.